Hello and welcome back to Retfurb. So on today's video I've got this set of Rockshox MAG 21 forks that are a little bit worse for wear. As you can see, they're not in the best conditions. They've had previous paint jobs on the leg. You can see they're different colours and they don't move that great, if hardly at all, to be honest. They're very tight, so I'm hoping that I can get inside, give them a good service, give them a good clean, and hopefully we can get them sorted and hopefully they'll be moving all okay afterwards. So I'm just undoing the top cap. I'm just using a set of adjustable spanners, but you can obviously use the correct size spanner to remove it. So this just unscrews and then that can come out. You've just got to be a bit careful with the oil inside because there should be oil in there, providing it hasn't already gone. And this will just need draining, otherwise you'll end up getting everywhere whilst you're doing it. And then just moving over to the other side, just removing the top air cap screw and just putting the air valve in there, just releasing what air is left in the fork. Just putting a bit of tissue there because there will probably be a bit of oil that comes out. So now that I've done that, I can remove the top cap on that one as well. Again, just using the adjustables on that one again. So like I say, these forks are not in the worst condition. They're just, the fact that they don't move is the worst thing on them. Other than that, you know, they could be used as they are, but I'm going to be stripping them down, repainting them, actually changing the colour on these. The person I did it for wanted to change the colour on them, so yeah, they'll be looking a little bit different by the end of it. So just draining the oil out the top of the other side also. And then we can remove the wiper seals. Just being careful when you do this that you don't sort of dig the screwdriver in anywhere that you shouldn't. Ideally you'd use a plastic scraper tool or something similar like that. And now you can see down inside there's circlips that are holding on the lower legs to the stanchions. So now I'm using a circlip tool just to compress that circlip and then remove that. Again, being careful of the stanchion. Just carefully lifting that out the lower legs. And now I'm just going to remove the brace. So again, just using the adjustable spanners just to remove the brake boss. And then an Allen key to remove the outer Allen key bolt. So I need to do this because I can't get in the other side where the circlip is. I can't get in it with the brace, so I need to just remove that so I can get inside first and then remove that circlip. Again, just taking care with that stanchion and just lifting that circlip up. So now I'm just going to remove that brace. Now at this point, after the oil's drained out, you need to put the top caps back in. To remove the lower legs, the way you need to do it, which is the easiest way of doing it, unless you've got a special tool that you can remove it, is to put air back into the fork and basically pressure off the lower leg. Obviously you need to be very careful when you're doing this. Ideally you want to be wearing some goggles in case any oil sprays out. But you can see now I've got it outside, so I'm just going to put my feet on the crown and on the lower leg, just stopping it so it doesn't fly off. Now with these, they were quite tight, so they took a little bit of wiggling. You can see I'm trying to wiggle my foot just to help it remove, and then just using my hand to twist it. And then you can see there the force that it comes off with, obviously with the pressure of the air. So like I say, you need to be very careful with this. Unless you've got a proper tool that will do it and separate it, this is the easiest way of doing it. I did it on another video with a set of MAG 21 SL. It's exactly the same process. Obviously you want to be careful as you're doing it. You don't want to damage the fork. It's going to be pretty robust. You know, if you were going to damage it doing what I'm doing here with my feet, then there'd be something wrong with them. So yeah, this is the easiest way I find of doing it. It's just, like I say, you've got to be careful, wear some goggles so no oil sprays in your face. Just get some pressure in that lower leg and it should pop off. And again, that's the other side. That one wasn't quite so forceful when it came off. And that's it, that's the basic process of removing it. So now just going on and cleaning the lower legs, just draining out any oil that's left, getting in there as best I can with the cloth, spraying some degreaser and clean that right out, and then they'll be ready to prep and paint. And just spraying that degreaser inside, like I said. And obviously I'm going to give them more of a thorough clean once they're in paint and they're being prepped for paint. and just wiping off some of the sort of residual oil, and now taking off the old stickers. So you can see here when you remove the sticker, it's just pulled the paint right off. So, you know, if you were just intending to replace the stickers and you did this, you would have to paint them, but to be honest, they weren't that bad. You know, you could have just left them as they are, the decals. So now this is fast forwarding into the future. You can see that I've painted the lower legs, the brace. I've also painted the crown, which I don't actually show on here, so I'm going to bolt the brace onto one of the legs before I move forward with that, and then I can nib off any of the dirt that's in the paint and then give it a polish. They weren't actually that bad, to be honest. They only needed a light nibbing off, and just using a bit of wet and dry 1500, and just using my small Milwaukee polisher with some Freckler polish and just going over it. And then I will go over it again before the decals get applied. Now with these, I didn't actually have the decals sorted for these. My printer was playing up at the time, so the guy I did them for, he had a spare set, so I sent them to him and he put the decals on himself, which I'll show later, a picture that he sent me, just so you can see them when they're all done, because I didn't actually have it at the end. I've just got the video and everything of when they were painted and all together without the decals on. But anyway, going back to it, now I'm just going to take off the stanchions and give them a good clean, removing all the parts, just cleaning all of them before they go back on, and making sure there's no sort of issues with any of the seals. So I checked these all over and everything seemed okay. You know, it could all be reused again. And quite often with a lot of these older forks, you've not got a lot of choice when it comes to some of the parts, because most of the time the parts, you know, for new parts, they're not available anymore. You'll be lucky if you get some of the new parts. Wiper seals, probably the easiest part to get for some of the older forks. Tends to be quite a lot of aftermarket stuff for them, but even them on some forks is quite difficult to get. So luckily with these, they weren't too bad. You know, they all went back in and there was no issues with them. So you can see I'm just working through, just cleaning through them all, just making sure there's no oil or any sort of dirt or anything like that that was left on there from previous. It was stopping it from moving, and just making sure that it's all nice and fresh to go back in. Now the wiper seal, I'll go over and give that a good clean when I come to fitting that on later on in the video. So these, I'm just going to use a bit of fork oil first and just put them on the stanchion and slide that all on, so you've got a nice bit of oil before it goes in. It's just doing that to all the parts. Now off the top of my head, I think it was 7.5 weight fork oil on these. I will double check and I will put it in the description just in case I'm wrong saying it, because I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was, and it was 40 psi I think pressure. But again, I'll double check that when I get to it. I don't want to, you know, to say the wrong thing, so I'll put that in the description so you can see that, all the spec that I used when I put it in, and the oil. So I'm just sliding all the parts back on, the internal seal to go back in, and now just putting some more oil on the outside, and then I can slot this part back in the lower leg. So with this, you can push it in a certain amount with your hands. Sometimes you're lucky with these and they will sort of slot right in, but most of the time you've got to sort of press them in. So there is a special tool again for this, or you can use, like I've got a tubing the exact size to get that lower rubber seal in. Now I've got an old bike pump randomly, which was perfect size for this. Now just tap on that seal very carefully, making sure that it's going in the same all the way around. You're not going in one side more than the other, and you tap that in until you meet resistance, and you can see just inside it's gone right in. And now we can put the circlip back in, and you'll know straight away whether you've got it in far enough, because the circlip won't go in enough and it won't go into the small notch that's inside the lower leg. And you can see there it's just slotted in. And now putting the wiper seal in, so I've given this a good clean, and this can be reused again. It was pretty good condition, to be fair. It wasn't sort of hard and brittle, and it wasn't broken in any way. So again, just pushing that in. Now I did have the bike pump part again to just tap that in. I didn't show it on there, but I just tapped it in to make sure that it was sat properly. And just putting the small ring back in the wiper seal, that I always take them out when I move them. And now bolting the brace to the other lower leg. And now fast forward in, you can see that I've put the stanchion on the other side also. Exactly the same process on that as what I did on the previous one, and now I'm just going to put the crown back on. So this can be a little bit fiddly. Sometimes you need to spread where you've got the opening where the bolts go in, just spread that slightly and it will slide in using like a plastic wedge, and then just bolting that up. You've got marks on these forks that show you where you're not allowed to go below, so you can see just where my finger is there, my thumb, there's a sticker, and that just shows you where you need to put the brace, the crown, sorry. And now this is the height of the oil, so it's 40mm from the top. When they're compressed, you'll see what I do in a minute, exactly how to measure it. So you compress the fork and then you pour the oil in the top. And once you get to a point, and you can check it, and then you can put the measuring tool inside and you'll see that it'll just dip it, and once it touches the end of it, that's the right height. So I'm just putting the oil in again. I just confirm what oil type it was. I'm pretty sure, like I say, it was 7.5, but I will confirm that in the description. So just carefully checking as I'm going along. And now just pumping the fork to help the oil get through. Whenever you're filling up the oil on forks like this, it's always worth pumping it a few times, and then the oil will circulate around a bit and you can just make sure you've got the right height that way. So you can see here I'm just dipping that now and checking the height of the oil, and it actually needs a little bit more, so I'll put that in there now. And I'm just going to pump it again before I check it. And looking at that, it's pretty much spot on, probably slightly over, but it was only sort of like a millimetre, so I mean that's not going to hurt. And now moving on to the other side, so exactly the same process. Filling up with the oil, pumping it, and then obviously checking to make sure it's okay. So checking that it's all okay, I'm just going to pump it a little bit more again. And then checked it was all okay again. So now the oil levels are all sorted. So now I can move on to putting the top caps back in. So I just cleaned them off and just put the rubbers back on after cleaning them, and then bolting them back onto the top. Both sides bolted on. I'm just going to take the screws out now for the air valves, and now I'm going to pump them back up to the required pressure. And I think off the top of my head it was 40 psi. No, I keep saying off the top of my head 40 psi, but I think it was. I'm trying to see on the gauge now what that was. So what I will do, I'll put it in the description what the pressure is, and also I'll put a link in the description to the service manual that's online, so you can see exactly what the pressures and levels and everything are, and oil specification. And that's about it. As you can see, they've come out really well. Like I said before, I haven't got the decals at this point, so I sent them back to the guy who I was doing them for, someone I know, and he fit the decals. And yeah, I think they come out really well, really happy with them. They work really well. He was really happy with them compared to what they were before, and they weren't moving that well, and obviously they looked a bit rough. He wanted to do them in the red finish, and I think it really suits them with the silver. So yeah, like you can see here, this is them all finished with the decals fitted, and yeah, all done. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video, it's really appreciated. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.